You're listening to Making Money Online, the podcast that talks about how to make income with impact and have a thriving business. We don't just talk about business, we talk about everything that affects your business too. This episode is sponsored by our friends at Autumn. You know me. I'm all about finding new ways to work smarter and give my time to the work and people that matter most. But like every entrepreneur, I've had those weeks where I am stuck in the weeds, answering the same questions over and over, stepping in to fix things, and my absolute pet hate, having to chase people for updates. And sometimes things don't seem to move forward unless it's me stepping in, right? Well, I'm excited to let you know that I've discovered Autumn. That's AUTM. And honestly, it's unreal. The team at Autumn are helping us shape the next chapter of how we run our world so we can deliver even more impact. It's actually the first AI I've found that actually does stuff that I want it to do. It doesn't just answer questions, it takes action, connecting my emails, calendar, projects, team, everything. It just keeps things moving. But best of all, it just gets on with the work without me needing to check or chase anything. No setup, no stress, no training. Autumn aligns perfectly with my mission. It's designed to give us back our headspace, our time, and our focus for the thing that really moves our business forward. And that matters most to me personally, the impact that we're making. Autumn is a great investment, sure, but more than that, it's what we all need to help us fall back in love with running our businesses. Trust me, it's going to blow your mind and you're going to love it. Head to autumn.ai/Lisa to save 50% on your first month and see for yourself why it's such a game changer. Ready to go further faster? Just autumn it. Today's guest is someone whose name most of us who were around in the 90s will be familiar with. Nick Leeson is widely known for being the trader who brought down the oldest bank in history, Barings. A film starring Ewan McGregor was made called Rogue Trader, based on Nick's biographical book about what happened. He now helps companies understand and mitigate their own fraud risks and has been helping me as an investigator in my own business. I've got to know Nick a little over the last year or so, but we've never talked about what he did or his stint in a Singapore prison. There's a lot I want to know, so let's get started. Hi Nick, welcome to the podcast.
Pleasure to be here, Lisa.
Is it a pleasure? Because you don't know what I'm going to ask you.
No, I know. You've got me a little bit scared when you said, is there anything out of bounds? And I said, no. I don't know if that was stupid or...
Yeah, it might have been. No, I'm not going to ask you anything. I just feel like I haven't heard many interviews with you. I've heard quite a lot of stuff that you've done, like after dinner speaking and stuff like that, about more of the stuff you do now.
Yeah.
I haven't heard you talk loads about what happened back then.
Sure.
And obviously I've watched Rogue Trader.
Yeah.
So now I want to know everything that wasn't said in between the film. So first of all, actually, before we get into any of it, Ewan McGregor are playing you. You happy with that?
Yeah, it's one of those things, isn't it? It's a question you get asked a lot, and obviously Ewan McGregor's a good-looking guy, and he's done well.
Yes.
But it's just for the most embarrassing period of my life. So you kind of, it's a strange one. Yes, it should be good, but it's not.
Are you embarrassed by that period of your life?
Yeah, always. It's and I don't think that'll ever change. I grew up wanting to be successful. And however much success I got, I always wanted more. And, I sort of pictured myself somewhere at the top of the organisation, making all the important decisions. And I'm always going to be remembered for my biggest failure. So, it doesn't sit well. But, you've got to... You learn
from it, though. And your failure has made you what you are now.
Yeah, I agree with that. You're the sum of your experiences. So, there's good experiences, there's bad experiences. Like I was joking with, I was talking to somebody at UEFA the other day, and he said, look, I've made a few mistakes. And I said, I made one, but it was a big one.
Yeah, I suppose you'll be remembered for your one.
Yeah.
Do you think if you hadn't written the book, it would be less remembered?
I don't know. It's a strange one when like it's 30 years on now and you look back at it. The book was written because I needed the money to pay the legal bills at the time. I had a legal team in Germany. I had a legal team in the UK who was the main guy. And then there was, I had a legal team in Singapore as well. So all three of those had to be paid. And if you total all three of them, it's about £1.5–2 million.
Wow.
Yeah, so the book was needed for that. So the book was a means to an end.
Did you write the book in prison?
Yeah.
I thought you must have done.
Yeah. So I had a laptop in my cell in Germany. I was in Germany for about 8 months. So it was in that time that the book was written.
You did that before you went to Singapore?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, because you didn't want to, going back to Singapore, there's certain areas of jeopardy.
Yeah.
And you don't want to say too much about what was going on in Singapore at the time or, be particularly aggressive in anything that you were saying because you're about to go back and get sentenced by a judge. And, you wanted it to be like it was never going to be easy.
No.
But you wanted it to be as best as it possibly could be at that time.
Did you feel like, because the book, although I don't think it paints you in the film of the book, I don't think, is the film pretty much like the book? Is it much changed?
The answer is yes, I suppose, in that they made the movie from the book. I mean, Sir David Frost made the movie. So one of his production companies. So he's got a particular slant that he wants to put onto it. When the book was written, the book was all, the early stages of the book are very much, working class boy from Watford against the system and the blue-blooded people who worked in banking at the time. I never felt that. But that was what they needed to sell the book. To
sell it, right.
So you've got all of these, as you're very aware, you've got all these things that go on around something that's, happening at that particular point. And that was one that I didn't agree with, but, they sat me down and they said, look, we need that part of it. And, Ed Victor, who's quite a famous literary agent, he went off and sold the book in the Frankfurt Book Fair or somewhere like that, and made a good deal of money out of it.
Yeah, and very quickly it got made into a film.
Yeah, if I tell you the truth about how it came around, well, I was sat in Germany with Sir David Frost. So Sir David came over to do an interview with a program called Breakfast with Frost, which he used to run on a Sunday morning. So that was why he came over. Then the BBC didn't want to be seen to be paying me for the interview. So we, the way that they put it all together, the paperwork, it was Sir David was paying his production company, David Paradigm Productions, was paying 15 grand for the option on the movie. But everybody says the movie's not going to be made, but it was a way of getting my wife at the time, my ex-wife, 15 grand for her to live on. So, but the paperwork was put together in that way so that the payment could be made.
Yeah. God, it's all different than you think, isn't it?
It is.
So let's go back right near to the beginning.
Yeah.
At what point, Barings Bank, historical bank, you're in there. It seems bizarre that you could even get away with doing some of the things that happened then without there being so many more checks on things.
Yeah.
But I'm guessing it was just different then.
It was and it wasn't, right? You can't tar everybody with the same brush. I worked for Morgan Stanley prior to that. I'd worked for Coutts and Company when I first left school, and they were very different organisations. One was very, high level private bank. The other was a, big American investment bank, and it was very well run. Morgan Stanley, completely different to Barings. And then when you look at Barings was in two parts really. You got Baring Brothers, 233-year-old merchant bank, and then Barings Securities, which is the part I was working for, which was only formed in 1985. So real clash of cultures. Yeah. Conduct as well within those organisations. And Barings Securities had a big name for expanding into the tiger economies in Southeast Asia, making a lot of money really quickly, but the infrastructure was never there.
Okay.
Like when I lived in Jakarta in Indonesia for about 15, 16 months, we lived in a hotel. We never had an office. And then when we did meet together to talk about stuff that we were doing from a trading perspective and from a settlement perspective, it was in the managing director, his name was William Daniel. It was in his suite at the Hotel Borobudur. It was only as I was leaving Jakarta that they started to get an office. So it was always, the infrastructure was
very
always
different.
Yeah, all followed behind. It was all about making money, right? Whereas if you walk into a bank these days and you want to get a deal across the desk, you have to bring in risk management and compliance.
So much compliance.
Yeah, and you have to bring so much more into it. Whereas, we were doing stuff that we probably shouldn't have been doing, and then we were trying to make it good afterwards.
Yeah. So talking of that, at what point did you kind of realise this isn't going to come good, or did you right to the end keep thinking I could make this okay again?
The answer to your question is sometime in 1994. It's too big. The markets are just collapsing. The position's getting bigger and bigger as it goes with you. You don't have the skill set to deal with it. You don't have the technology or anything to deal with it, and you're floundering. But putting your hand up and saying, "Look, I'm failing," it was just not in my makeup. Because it was so focused on being successful. So, I couldn't. I couldn't fail. I just couldn't tell anybody, and it was a real human weakness inherent in me that just stopped me going that far. Like I'm sure that if you have a bad day, there's somebody that you turn to and you speak. For me, there was nobody because it was, it was the one thing that I really couldn't cope with. So I was always postponing the realization of my own failure as much as I was postponing the realization of the losses. And then you get other weird stuff happening. Like I was back home in Christmas 1994, so about 2 months before the collapse of the bank, and out with friends and family, and being sick at some of these places because you've got all this stress and
anxiety.
All on
your shoulders. Yeah,
it's all building, and there's nobody to speak to, so it's all building up within you. And then I didn't want to go back to Singapore, but still, if I'm not going back, I've got to tell somebody why I'm not going back. And, my ex-wife at the time, she was keen on showing her lifestyle in Singapore to a couple of friends who were coming in March. And very stupidly, I went back.
Do you think it would have been different if you didn't?
Probably not. The bank may have survived. The losses accelerated at the beginning of 1995. The markets were collapsing. There was an earthquake in Kobe. So maybe there was a way of saving the bank within that period. There was no saving me, because everything, I knew what I'd been doing. I knew I shouldn't be doing it. I'd continued, so I was gonna, I was facing a criminal sentence at that time. Maybe it would have been a little bit less. I don't know. Maybe it would have been in the UK, which would probably have been preferable.
Yeah.
I always joke that I could have been playing golf with Jeffrey Archer or somebody in
you could have
in some prison that's got a little golf course on the side of it, but they didn't have those in Singapore. So,
what point did you go, I'm going to prison? I know I'm going to prison, or did you kind of know it while you were doing it?
No. It's if you look at it chronologically, at the end of the first year, I'm going to get slap on the wrist and be told not to do it again. There were bigger things that had happened during that period. Second year, I'm going to lose my job. Third year, some point in there, it gets so big, and it was the wrong way of it. It wouldn't be something you could explain away now, but at the time, banks were very concerned about their reputation. And so if you had a big rogue trading scandal, it's got to reach a certain level before you want to publicize it, because they're trying to weigh up reputation versus the loss. And, there's another example at the same time of a guy called Iguchi who was at Daiwa Bank in New York, and he lost $1 billion in that particular episode, and they kept it from everybody.
Oh, really?
The SEC uncovered it, and so still in Daiwa's books, $1 billion wasn't enough to lose the reputation that they had. So it was just a different time, I suppose.
Yeah. So you find out you're going to prison. You don't know how long for.
We had an idea.
Did you?
Yeah, like when I was in Germany, I saw the serious fraud office came to visit me in Germany. I pled guilty to everything that they wanted. They didn't want me to go back to the UK, so we started to negotiate with the Singaporeans. Probably July, August of 1995. They offered us a maximum of 8 year sentence. So that's the worst that can happen.
So you've got a benchmark of what can happen. Did they really get you as you were going off the plane?
In Germany?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, and they escorted me back to Singapore.
Did you know when you were on the plane, like, this is likely to happen when we land?
No.
Oh,
No,
so that you didn't?
No. But you're, again, a different sort of era. And when you get on the plane, like I was in Brunei, the last airport. So I went from Kota Kinabalu to Brunei. It's a circular airport. And so as you go to all of the gates, they've all got a TV above the gate. And my picture's on all of the TVs. Yeah. And so we had 7 hours or 8 hours to kill in Brunei airport. So we stayed in one of the little, hotels that you can get, and it was on a lower floor. So we just stayed there for 7-8 hours and then walked to the gate. It's like the real walk, like it's a different walk of shame, but it's a definite walk of shame. And your picture's on all the TVs and somehow you get on the plane and then they're giving out newspapers and you're on the front page of every single newspaper. It didn't matter if it was an Italian one or it's
still
a
your
French
picture,
one.
isn't it?
Yeah. And then you sat there and you're trying to be incognito and you got the blanket over your face or whatever. It just, and then the plane stopped in like 3 or 4 different countries on the way back as well.
When you think back to this time and you're retelling it, does it feel like it happened to somebody else?
No.
You still can feel it, like how it was when you were there?
Yeah, I think, it's all, there are so many different cliches that people use, not to disparage them or anything, but, people say, well, when you were arrested in Germany, was it a real sense of relief? No. You're scared because you're going to prison. I'm going to a German prison. Like what does a German prison entail? So you've always got another hurdle that's to overcome. And in some ways that kept me away from some of the sensational sort of stuff that was going on around the story at the time.
Yeah.
And you were just focused on, what's the next thing I've got to overcome.
Yeah. Was there a point during the 2 years before that? Was there any points where you just thought, do you know what? I'm just gonna hold my hand up? No. You just never thought you would? No.
I mean, there were times that you thought, what would happen if I walk away now? You were surrounded by this success story and, like I could have gone to work anywhere.
Yeah, because
I would have left a massive hole behind me. So there's no point going anywhere. Every time people traded with me on the trading floor in Singapore, they thought they lost money and they thought I was always making money, but I was manipulating the two different exchanges in Tokyo and in Singapore. And so my loss was bigger than their loss, but
they just didn't see it.
No. And then you've got Cymex having award ceremonies and, they're giving out us awards for the highest customer volume on Cymex. And then, the people who ran the debt products division organised a big party in Grand Central Station in New York and flew everybody into it. You saw the movie. That's the bit where Ewan McGregor's being sick in the toilet. And, I was the one who didn't attend that meeting because I just couldn't face it.
Yeah.
But, I don't think it was really Jekyll and Hyde for me. You're on the trading floor, everybody's buying into the success. You're the biggest trader there and you get carried along. But then as soon as you get home,
you remember, this isn't real.
It's real Jekyll and Hyde. And you've got to have a normal life when you're back at home doing sensible things. And again, it was all about avoidance. If I could avoid Singapore, get on a boat and go to Batam or fly to Cebu in the Philippines, it got you away from it. And it was all avoidance. I mean, they're all classic stuff. Alcohol was a constant companion as well. It was easy to black out and avoid stuff rather than deal with stuff.
Have to deal with what's there. Yeah. And then you had to deal with it. And you went to prison in Singapore. What was that like?
It was tough, but you never...
Is it different? Are the prisons different there than here?
100%.
Okay.
Yeah. Well, not that I've been to one here.
No,
I have
but
to say.
I'm presuming no.
Maybe in the future, but no. Like in Singapore, you sleep on the floor.
Oh, do you?
Yeah, the floor's very rough and uneven. You get a blanket, so it's like a fire blanket. It's not particularly nice. So you've got a choice in the evening because it gets quite cold in the evening. As the sun goes down, the cells start to get a bit cooler. So you can either use it as a pillow to put your head on, or you can cover yourself with it. Yeah. So that's the first sort of thing. The cell is 6 foot by 9 foot. and a little toilet area, which is just a hole in the floor. That's where you shower as well. So there's just a tiny little guardrail that gives you some privacy, not a great deal. There's 3 of you in a cell. So, there's enough room to roll over. There isn't enough room to roll over. There's enough room for the 3 of you to lie down. Everybody's a triad gang member, everybody, bar me. And so you
must have stuck out like a sore thumb there.
Yeah, but there were a couple of other Westerners that came through at different times, but some of them were affiliated to the gangs. The gang gives you a bit of protection, and if you're in the lockup phase, which is 23 hours a day lockup, then they give you a bit of food, as they try to get food to you as well. But for me, they always used to try and put people from different gangs. So I'd have somebody from Ang Soon Tong, which is one Chinese gang. I might have somebody from Omega, which is a Malay gang. So they would instantly dislike and distrust each other. So it'd last about 14, 15 days, and then they'd have a punch up, and then they'd have to come and get them out. And
did you ever get involved in
once or twice? Yeah. But I used to, when I worked in the city, I used to kickbox. So I was okay and they're smaller than me as well.
Yeah.
So
you were all right in that situation.
A little bit smaller. Not all of them were smaller.
Did you ever blame anyone else for what happened?
No, I mean, you can only blame yourself. I think one of the things, and it struck me a little bit too late, but you have to be as honest as you can be about situations, and so full accountability.
I sort of blamed others when I heard your story, because I was a bit like, he was a kid, and he was given a lot of power. Yeah, but all kids do.
Maybe.
And you've been given all of this, like you'd never get that kind of power now.
No.
Not without the checks that needed to be there. It's a lot.
No, but it comes down to, basic honesty, basic integrity. And, I saw a lot of people doing very similar things to me. And, if I'm going to hide behind anything, and I don't really hide behind anything, is that, because it was too common an occurrence, when it came to my turn, I didn't even really think about it.
No,
it goes, this is what happens. Everybody puts it in an error account. I've just done it more frequently, bigger size, and then got myself in a situation that I can't extricate myself from, and it just gets bigger and bigger.
Yeah.
So, for me now, it's all, the messages I kind of bring when I'm talking about stuff is, always ask for help and advice. You're surrounded. It's such a simple thing, but it's such a powerful thing, because you're surrounded by people that can help you, point you in the right direction.
But there's a fear of doing that, isn't there, as well?
There is, but there shouldn't be.
No.
It's the biggest message I always give my kids. You might do something wrong, and you're going to get reprimanded for a little bit, but in the end, I'll work through it with you. I'm there to help. I'm not there to make your life a misery for the rest of it. It's to get you through that process, and acting early, all those sort of things.
How old are your kids?
The youngest is 21 now. So. And
so did they grow up knowing your story?
Not really. It's a weird one. It's so Mackenzie, who's the youngest, he's 21, and I have 2 stepchildren. So Alex is 25, 26. Kirsty will be 30, 31 now. So Kirsty will have known a little bit more than the other 2, and then Mackenzie knew nothing. So wouldn't have known that I'd been married before, wouldn't have known, where I worked. He knew that sometimes I popped up on TV
Google
doing stuff. I don't think he even Googled, but he didn't know there was a movie and a book and stuff like that. And then the Daily Mail wanted to do, an anniversary piece or something. And that's when it became a bit more obvious, and people at school were saying it to him and stuff like that. But, I think, the most important thing for me is that anybody who knows me closely and well, they're the people that I respect. The keyboard warriors who've got something. You don't
care about any of that?
Nah. It's, I think it's harder for my wife and for my kids than it is for me.
It usually is harder for the people on the surface. I'm the same.
Yeah.
I get a lot of
I can bat stuff away really easy and not respond to stuff.
Yeah.
As much as you might want to every now and again.
Yeah. But you know not to.
Yeah, not to.
I want to talk about the love story part of things, because I don't think people do. And what I saw was somebody that was very in love with the person that they were with, who didn't want to disappoint that person. So when you were with Lisa, you didn't want to disappoint her by admitting any kind of failing.
I didn't want to disappoint anybody. You know, I think it extends, it extends beyond that. You know, like I always wanted to please people. And I think you see that in lots of other episodes that are quite similar, not necessarily just in the finance world. But it was like being successful in lots of different ways, whether that's in a relationship or whatever. It wasn't, I don't think it was what drove me to do what I did. I think, fear of failure was bigger there. I just couldn't, I couldn't do that. And plus I'd been successful, I was very much the ascending star within the organisation, and then had this spectacular fall from grace.
Do you remember sitting down and telling Lisa what happened?
No, it's weird. I mean, that's why we got divorced. I think there were lots of other reasons why we got divorced as well. But, like the lack of honesty in that was paramount. I didn't tell her anything that was going on, kept it all to myself, but I didn't tell anybody. Right? It's not like I was treating her any different to anybody else. But
I was so rooting for you. During the film, I was so like, she's going to stay with him. I was so annoyed.
Yeah.
Okay.
I've done better now.
You've done better now, yeah. It always happens for a reason, doesn't it? So let's talk about that. So then you get a new relationship.
Yeah.
Did your wife now know everything going in?
I don't know if she knew everything. So Leona and I met in Watford, so not a million miles from here. She's obviously she's Irish. We live in Galway these days, but she's originally from Meath, so Kells in County Meath. We met in Watford, and I kind of pursued her, and I was doing a degree at university at the time. Trying to find some form of stability myself. When you first come back, it's a little bit hedonistic, and you're trying to do too much. And I used to wake up on a Monday morning and be really empty because everybody else was going to work, and I was kind of sat there going, "What am I going to do today?" There's only so many days you can go drinking and partying. So it was important for me to put some structure back in. Fell in love with Leona and moved to Ireland probably 22, 23 years ago now.
Yeah. So. And when did you have the conversation of, have you Googled me? Oh, there was no Google then. Or do you know who I am?
I don't know. I don't know if we had that.
Really?
I'd say a couple of her friends told her.
Okay.
That would have known me. So we have mutual friends, from around Watford at that particular time. Her sister lives in Watford, and is married and still lives around the area. She's moved out slightly, but so there would have been a certain amount of knowing. I can't tell you if we've ever. I think we watched the movie once. I think the number of times I've watched the movie altogether is not more than 2 or 3.
Yeah.
So I think we probably watched the movie together. I don't think she's not read the book or
That's
anything
probably
like that.
The best way. Like, if you want to know anything about me, just watch this.
Yeah, but I think the important thing is, like me and her, as opposed to me and the person that I was. I don't even know if I was. It's almost as the person I was portrayed. You get a lot of stuff, a lot of sensational stuff. Star trader. Aggressive. Extrovert. Living the high life. Porsches, penthouses, and yachts. And none of that's true, but that's what sells.
That's what sells. And there's still a rumor that you profited from the dishonesty. So, I think that's always going to be there, that there's this 35 million just hidden in different accounts somewhere.
There was a lot of different things over the years. I did a radio program with the late and great James Whale a good few years ago. And, James, we were doing there was a phone in, and I've done a few of the James's programs over the years. and somebody phoned in and said, look, I'm buying your mum and dad's house. Shall I dig up the garden? And, but it's like I've got a sense of humour. I laugh at stuff that's funny. And, you get some stuff that's a bit more vitriolic and, not particularly nice, but you brush it off as you know. And
so you didn't profit from it, did you?
No, but there's an argument that I got a salary and I got bonuses during that period.
Okay, but you didn't profit from it as in you took money and hid it somewhere?
No.
Okay.
No.
And you'd tell me.
Probably should have.
Yeah, you probably should have.
If people say you should have taken some, and I'm like, yeah, maybe.
Yeah, maybe you should have. Okay. Do you think of yourself as an honest person now?
It's a tough question. Because of my history and what happened, I think I think I am. I mean, you'll always get the straight. I'm a very straight talker. To the extent that people get a little bit put off by it sometimes.
I like it.
Yeah, it's. I don't beat around the bush. Again, coming out of experience, prison taught me one thing and one thing only. There's things in your life you can influence. There's things in life that you can't influence. So don't worry about the ones that you can't influence. Just focus on the ones that you can. So, I'm not one of these people, if I'm in the car and I, get a little dent in the car or whatever else, I'm, woe is me and, thinking about it for the next 24 hours. It's like, no, look, it happened. Let's move on.
Move on, yeah.
So you've got things like that. Look, I'm pretty straight with everybody. I think we've always got occasions where maybe there are, there's a little white lie or something, but I try to keep away from that as much as I can.
Yeah, I suppose you learn from the things that have happened to you in the past. We all do.
100%.
So you moved back to England. You start trying to get some semblance of structure into your life. What did you do at university?
Psychology.
Okay, that's
not for any major reason.
You just wanted some structure.
Yeah. I very stupidly got done for drink driving when I came back. It was on Sky TV for that. Sky News for.
Well, you will be for any tiny thing you do now.
Yeah, not anymore now, but I got 3 points the other day.
And is that just because you were like let loose?
No, it's just stupidity
on
my part, and but. I think I was close to going to jail, so I had to get my solicitor to come and represent me there at Watford Magistrates Court or wherever it was. And, not the world's, but the UK media turned up to report on that. So, yeah, look, I think behaviour exists on a continuum. So, I always had a bit of a wild edge to me. I think I still have that. I can still do stupid things. I like to enjoy myself. Yes, I overindulge sometimes, and that may result in an act of stupidity. I still have that in me. Have I matured? Yeah, I think I probably have.
You're not sure, though.
No, I still think that I'm pretty much the same person I was 40 years ago, and that's I wouldn't want to be a boring old fuddy-duddy, and I do embarrass the kids every now and again.
Well, we all do. Yeah. But you do some good now. So some of the stuff you do is to help other people to put checks in place and to make sure that fraud can't happen as quickly. And you're on the kind of corporate side of things now, of helping those. What got you into that?
You have to take advantage of situations that are put in front of you. So when I first came back from Singapore, there were a couple of requests to do TV programs and to do radio and different bits and pieces. And, I'm trying to be a little bit incognito, don't want to be in the press. But people are asking me to do after dinners and keynote addresses at conferences. And, they're asking me. So I kind of get comfortable with that.
Yeah, because you're not going to that.
Yeah, I'm not putting myself out there. So I started doing that, and 26 years later, I'm still doing the same amount of gigs. They're all around the world, and so I get a bit of travel with it. You meet lots of different people, and I'm not going to say I enjoy it, but it's a means to an. It was always a means to an end. I don't know. I think I enjoy some of them. I don't enjoy all of them. I enjoy more than I don't enjoy. Sometimes you'll turn up somewhere, and I remember an event I did a while back, and there was a comedian there, and there's a band there, and everybody's drinking. You're on last. It don't work.
That's definitely not going to work.
No, but you try to tell them that.
Yeah.
Put me on first, then have the comedian, then have the band, and try and keep people a little bit soberer for the one who's got a story to tell, type of thing.
Do you like the spotlight or not really?
In the events and talking
in anything?
I've grown to. I'm accustomed to it now, let's say.
Yeah.
So it doesn't bother me. And in some of the work that we do now, being media friendly is advantageous.
Yeah.
So we can pick up the phone to Bloomberg, and, we can talk to them, at a senior level really easily, and all of the newspapers. So, they're always looking for comments, as you know. So if you, I suppose at the beginning when I first came back from Singapore, you're a little bit wary of the media and trying to keep away from it. Whereas now, I think the more you make yourself available, the more you tell the truth, the more that you give valid responses to everything that's going on. And likewise, if somebody throws something at me and it's valid, I'll say, yeah, you're probably right.
Take it.
Yeah, you're probably right. I don't particularly like the way you reacted to this or something that you did. If it's valid, fair play.
Let's talk a bit about what you do now. So obviously you've got that, the speaker circuit, and you're there on boards and corporate and that kind of stuff. But you also investigate.
Yeah.
So, and you've done that for me, and I know others that you've done that for really successfully.
Yeah.
What got you started doing that?
Again, going back to things we've spoken about already, I think it's always, again, for me, I think the thing that's probably lacked a little bit over the last 25, 30 years is how do I gauge success? So, you can stand up in front of an audience and you can be clapped and everybody's happy at the end of it. But still, that's just you telling a story, right? Which is, and for me, it's always, it's a version of the same story.
Yeah,
it doesn't change a great deal. So, it doesn't really have that, that meat, if you like, that you're trying to get to when you're trying to be successful again. Yeah. So, a couple of people that I know well, we were looking at doing something together. So you try and work out what you're good at, and, being quite forensic, highly accurate, those sort of things that got me to where I was within the world of banking. Try to take advantage of those. So we've been asked by a number of high profile people to, look at cases that they've got either against big banks or other organisations that have tricked them into doing something. We've looked at some romance scams. We've got a big case at the Ombudsman at the moment around that, some misclassifications when people are opening.
Tell me what accounts. A romance scam consists of.
It's just being tricked into parting with a lot of money by somebody who isn't what they position themselves to be. Yeah, it's one of those things where in this particular case you get contacted on LinkedIn. We come from a similar industry. We're looking at expanding into this sort of space. Would you be amenable to my boss giving you a call or contacting you on social media? They get off of LinkedIn and they go straight onto WhatsApp and start communicating on WhatsApp because it's less controllable. And then it's a good looking, very young Chinese woman from Singapore or New York, but she's of Singaporean descent. And then they start getting into conversation and, lo and behold, 6 months later, he's lost nearly the best part of £1 million.
I always used to think, if I'm honest, that people were a bit stupid who that happened to. But having been scammed myself this year, as you know, it's really easy to get duped, isn't it? People are clever.
Yeah, it's look, they've done it for years, and they're highly skilled in doing it, and they know what works. I always think, and this is probably this is a bit of a slight on myself as well. When I look back at my time in Singapore and why I managed to get through a lot of the situations that I found myself in. If I did get a call from somebody in London who was looking at a particular part of what was going on, if I was confident and strong in my responses, they tended to accept it. And I think that's what happens sometimes people are a little bit vulnerable. In the romance scam, it was definitely a vulnerable individual who was looking, recently divorced, at home on his own, of a certain age. So he was a prime sort of target. I think in other cases, if you get into a situation with the wrong people, due diligence is, we all, like you use it yourself, we use it. And it's so important. And the earlier you do it, the better, because when we see a lot of these cases, and whether it's a romance scam or any other form of fraud, a lot of it is somebody very close to you. And that's the unfortunate part of it. And
I agree. I think that's why the due diligence is hard, because
but always do it.
Yeah, I wouldn't have done it.
No, I think it's one of those things. It's like professional skepticism is okay, right? Be skeptical about everybody.
I am.
You should be.
I am, and yet I still fell for it. But I think it's because when you're friends with someone, and I think we think of scam artists as coming in, doing something quickly and getting out. But actually, they can spend years like almost grooming what they need.
Yeah.
And by then, there is trust there.
Yeah.
And so you have to be really careful. I think due diligence is a really hard thing to do these days because of everything.
Well, look, we do it. We do it, and we enjoy doing it. And my partners in this are very good at doing it. And it's, it's amazing what you can unearth in a very quick period of time. And, there's no harm in doing it. Like, hopefully everybody you want to get due diligence on is absolutely squeaky clean.
And at least it's done. And
it's done, and that, it is shocking. When we look at some of the episodes that we've seen over the last number of years, like going back to that romance scam, it's all playing out on WhatsApp, and it's there's conversations every day about the weather and what they're having for dinner and all this.
They take the time.
Oh yeah, the majority of it is completely banal, and then they hit you with different stuffs, and so when we're investigating it and we have to look at the WhatsApp, you're like, he's not going to do that. Or she's not going to do that.
And they do.
And then they do it. And you're like, and then you go down, a little bit further and, that's got to be the end of it. And it goes again. And it's just, there's certain ones of them that are called pig butchering, right? Because they just keep drawing you in and in and in, and they're taking another bit and another bit. And in the case where it was nearly £1 million, like he's remortgaged his house. He's cashed all of his pensions in.
And no part of him is thinking there's something dodgy going on here.
No. And look, 3 or 4 months after we started to investigate the case, he's still talking about this person.
Oh, really?
And, it's just, it's sad to a certain extent. And it's all about education. It's all about awareness and telling people that this sort of stuff is going on.
And I think that you have to kind of tiptoe around those things. So I even remember you with me saying, like, I might have to let you know that this person is not the friend that you think they are. And you were almost didn't know whether I would be okay with that, because I guess people just don't always believe that. Yeah,
100%. 100%. I mean, like, there is there's a certain amount of psychology around it, and being careful about the way that you explain it to people. Like in the romance scam, he was buying gifts from Tiffany's to give her on Valentine's Day, which was just about to come up, and they're talking about the rest of their life together and what they're going to do and all this sort of stuff. And unfortunately, he's down nearly 7 figures in terms of.
It makes me so sad.
It's it's shocking. But if you go behind all of this, there's communes on the the Myanmar Thai border that are just growing in size, and some of the people that are there and are having to do these frauds or these scams, they're held against their wishes.
Are they?
Oh yeah, they're in prison. Some of them. So they've got a boss or a gangland boss who's got hundreds and I think it's thousands of people now that are in these communes that are being forced to do this. And they start off, and with this person, they probably had a target of £5,000 to £10,000. They've got the best part of £1 million out of him.
Whereas we always think of these people as like the scam artists as the evil people. And actually, they're probably also being used.
Oh, look, there's stories of people being, they put job adverts out for KPMG. Wow. Come and get a job with KPMG. You arrive in Bangkok. So these are in Asia. You might arrive in Bangkok and they pick you up in a car and they take you to a little lake and they've got a gun and they say, what do you want to do? Do you want to come to the commune or should we shoot you here type of thing? And then they're chained to the desk. So they're beaten. To do it. Yeah. And they've got, they learn the skill because the only chance they've got of getting released is by performing for these people. And I'm not sure too many of them ever get released, but the BBC and ITV have done TV programs on them. And these communes, you might start off by seeing the commune is this big. Now it's this big. Growing. It's just unbelievable. And until the government's, really clamped down on them,
then it'll just keep going.
Yeah.
You're going back, aren't you, to Asia? Or have you been back?
I've been back a few times.
Have you? Because I saw that you had your blog talked about it's been 30 years.
Yeah.
You're going to go back.
Yeah, I was in Macau.
Did you go to Singapore?
No, I'm banned.
Oh, you can't get in.
I would love to go, I suppose, just to show, my family, Singapore, and it's a lovely place.
Because it was a place you enjoyed before all of this happened.
Yeah, you don't really know some of the underworld that's going on. I've got the other side of that now from being in prison. But I loved my time in Singapore. It was just the work and the mistakes that I made through work that dulled it. I have been I've been invited to give talks there. But it's just got too much personal jeopardy. They might say, look, no, we've got found something else from a few years ago.
It's not worth the risk, is it?
It's not, no, because the prisons aren't nice. It's tough, and they're meant to be tough. If you compare a UK regime to a Singaporean regime, it's
it's very different.
Extremely different. It's probably 100 times tougher. But that's what it's meant to be.
Yeah, that's what they do it for. Okay, so you've been through a lot. Yes, some of which is your own making. We're not going to pretend that that's not true. But you've had to have resilience through that. How do you look after your own mental health, or how did you look after your mental health when you were going through some of these worst times?
The worst times were definitely in prison, right? The rest of the time it was alcohol. And you're avoiding, right? So you're not dealing with it. You're postponing it for another day or another week or another month or whatever else. So you're never really getting to that point where you have to deal with it. I think in prison I had to deal with it, and you kind of there's nobody to talk to. You got a Malay guy there who's got 15 years for shooting somebody, and then there's somebody else. So a lot of drug related crimes in the prison in Singapore. So I started a diary. So we used to have these little foolscap books that you used to get in school when we were younger, and so I kept one of those and just kept a page for every day, and it was just things that triggered in your mind. And that's personal relationships. That's, things that you did at work, and you just write down about it and write down what you would have preferred to be. And it's just, I think communication is such a powerful tool. I don't think you really understand it when you're younger.
No, you definitely don't.
But, I couldn't communicate. So the way that I communicated was by writing to myself. And it was really, I think it got me through those days. I used to read a lot in prison in Singapore. I had somebody in America who sent me a box of books every month for 3.5, 4 years. He used to own a bookstore, and then he just closed the bookstore and he used to send them to me. So I did a lot of reading, but really the diary is the thing that kept me going through that period.
And is there anything you've done when you've come out of there, whether it's therapy or anything else, to deal with everything that's happened?
No, I've never done any therapy or anything like that. I did I was asked by one of the TV, I can't even remember what this stuff is called. You may know what it's called, but regression.
Oh, past life regression.
Yeah, so I was asked to do that for one of the TV channels. So they had a few people. There was one guy in there who'd been on EastEnders. He was a Scottish guy, a Scottish actor, and he really got into it. And then you have to lie on this bed, and they've got all the cameras around, and they're taking you back to this former life. But
I've done past life regression as well.
But I don't think anybody can hypnotise me. I'm
unhypnotizable as well.
Yeah. So they did that regression thing, and I'm lying there, and like they were there for hours with me. And it was a woman that was on Good Morning Britain or one of those at the time, and she was saying, she's trying to take me through the process. Can you see anything? And I said, yeah, I can see the light on that camera over there.
Yeah,
I can see
it just
you
didn't
over
work.
There. It just didn't work. So I've never really got involved in any of that.
Do you think you need to?
I believe in the power of yourself.
Okay, I love that.
So I'm not a big advocate of too much therapy.
Yeah. You think it's just your reliance on yourself? And maybe you've had the experience.
I don't know. I don't think it's that. I think we've all got this innate strength to deal with situations. Like I wouldn't have been a particularly, like me facing into prison and spending time in a cell. I would never have thought I was going to be able to cope with that.
No.
And I was there for, I was in Singapore for nearly 4 years, and it's tough. You're locked up for 23 hours a day. You're sleeping on the floor, so you've got sores all over your legs. I had cancer whilst I was in prison, so I had 6 months of chemotherapy. So you've got all of these hurdles, and they don't all come at once. It's it is one at a time. So I do believe we all have this innate strength to cope with whatever we have to face. You've just got to find it. It's there, and I think people stress and worry about things and get too anxious and panic about things far too easily. Whereas, I'm going back to the thing about dealing with things that you can affect, and within your life, it's I'm very. What's the word?
You're quite pragmatic.
Yeah, extremely so. So like, there was an episode this morning where something happened to somebody, and, there's a panic at a certain time in the morning. And I'm like, I can't do anything about it at 2:00, but at 8:00, when I can do something about it, it's all sorted in 5 minutes.
Yeah.
And everything's in place to solve the situation.
You don't stress easily.
No.
Well, I guess you wouldn't. I think if you've been through hard stuff, you'd stress less.
Yeah, you do stress about some things from time to time, but it's always about putting it in context and then moving forward from there. Like there's a lot of people have it a lot worse.
That's true.
And you've got to be grateful for where you are and who you are and how you are.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of the process for me over the years has been, building back self-esteem, self-worth, self-value. And I think if you do that and you can focus on those, then you can cope with the other things that are around you. It's like, how do people view me? It doesn't really matter. It's only the people that are close to me. It's their views that are important.
And that's really difficult these days in the world of social media to realise that actually that external validation or invalidation means nothing.
Yeah.
It's about the people that are closest to you and what they really believe. And if you can have that strength of character to know that, I think it's a really good thing, but it's hard to have that. It's
tough, yeah. I mean, I think people are just sort of embarking on social media and, just starting out that process. It's extremely tough. And there's a lot of nasty stuff going on. I was listening to a bit, I think it was Ralph Little or somebody was explaining some of the stuff that's going on in social media at the moment between kids and, one kid who's going out with another kid and then everybody else is getting involved in that and pulling them into different stuff. It's horrible, but I go back to the days in the playground years ago. It was probably similar, but
it just didn't travel home with you.
No.
What legacy do you want to leave?
The answer is I don't really care.
That's interesting in itself.
Yeah, but I don't care because the legacy that's important to me is how the people closest to me view me. So legacy is kind of this, I don't know, it's a big word. And, my legacy will always be the collapse of the bank in that regard. But that's not important to me. When you look at everything around the collapse of the bank, it's really easy to have a pop at me about something, if I do a trade or whatever else, who's going to believe him type of thing. I know I didn't lick it off the ground to get where I was. Right. And not many people get where I was at that particular
before
point.
it all happened.
Before it all happened, I was, one of a very few people at that sort of age who was doing what they did. So as I said, I didn't lick it off the ground. I was good at what I did. Yeah. But that's not what I'll be remembered for.
No.
And I'm okay with that.
You've come to terms with
that.
that.
I've come to terms with that. But what's important is what my kids think, what my wife thinks.
Have you forgiven yourself for what happened?
I don't think I ever will completely, just because, it was so stupid and, I knew what the correct thing to do was and I didn't do it. So you can never put yourself out there too positively in that regard. And, but I've made the best of a bad situation.
Yeah.
That doesn't please everybody all of the time, but, we all move on. We all make mistakes.
And we have to move on from those mistakes, learn from those mistakes and make something good out of it, which I think you're doing.
I hope so, yeah. I hope so. It's, and it's nice to have success again in different things that we do. And, and the kids are all good. They're all, they're all prospering and that's the most important thing. My values are, I don't think my values are materially different from that, growing up on a council estate in Watford years ago. Loyalty is really important to me. That's
my biggest value.
Yeah, I'm still very, very loyal, very working class background. And I want my kids to do better than I did. But it's not, they're not I don't drive as hard as I may have driven myself years ago. I want them to be happy. They'll have more money than I did when I was growing up. And, hopefully they have better careers. They do to this juncture. And I just want the best for them.
And that's what's important. That's your legacy.
Yeah, I think so. But that's a personal thing as opposed to the
big legacy.
Yeah, the rogue trader legacy, yeah.
Thank you for coming in today. I really enjoyed talking to you.
It was enjoyable and you didn't ask me anything too bad.
Good. Thanks for listening to Making Money Online. If you want to start your online business journey, you can get my free course, Fabulous Foundations, right now in the show notes. I'll see you next week for another episode.